Congratulations on the purchase of your Connection Sphere by Pro Center that Sean and I worked hard to create for you to make you play better golf. We want to walk you through just a couple points to get you started and feeling comfortable with your product. Sean, let's first just talk about the proper way to put it on.
Yep.
So I'm going to start with the cuff without the sphere on and make sure that it's going on my trail forearm, where the Velcro is on the tab of the Velcro is on the outside of the forearm. And I want to make sure it's really snug, really tight so that it's not moving around.
Yep.
Obviously I'm putting it over my shirt this morning, but you know, if it's hot out and it's on skin and there's a little bit of moisture, make sure it's on really tight so we're not sliding around. Okay. Next, we're going to take the Connection Sphere and what are some of the really important things we want to think about when we're putting this thing on, Sean?
I think the important part about obviously putting it on is the location of it. So as you can see, we've put a concave cut into this. So what it does is once it's on, it fits into your forearm. So based on the pliable nature and its ability to compress and expand, that's ideally what you want to do. So you'll see it with the Pro Center logo and the concave, how it fits on there so well.
Right. So I'm going to take that concave and I'm going to lay it against that arm before I even touch the cuff, right? Because I want to get real comfy and feel like it's right in that spot on my lead forearm now. And then I'm just going to kind of lean it against my stomach, bring in that trail arm, squish it together. Now it's on there, but now I'm going to stick my left hand, or if I'm a right-handed golfer, into the sphere, squish it and twist it because I want it really secure. I don't want it moving around. I want to make sure that it stays on there and feels really good. So now that it's on there, you know, the nice thing about the Connection Sphere, the way we designed it, is you can do whatever you need to do. It's not, you know, in the way. It's
absolutely.
It's not a hindrance to what you're doing. And it stays in place. We don't have to keep repositioning this product. It's always there when we want to go. So from there, we're just going to do some simple stuff. Make sure that when we address the ball, we feel comfortable. We're going to check now to make sure that it's in that right spot. You're going to feel just a little light squeeze. Okay. Sean, you were talking earlier about Ben Hogan and why he really talked a lot about having his elbows together.
And so the feeling that Hogan had wasn't his secret, but one of the things that he focused on in 5 lessons was he always wanted to feel, and there's an image where he's tied rope around his forearms, but he always felt that it was really imperative to keep his elbows as close together as possible. Right. Now, we don't expect that all the amateur golfers who purchase this product are going to have the physical abilities that some of these world-class players have, because all they do is play golf and go to the gym and stretch and do all these necessary things to swing the club well. But what it's going to provide you with is feedback to when you can feel like you're just taking it back, you know, with your elbows and your shoulder, versus being able in a one-piece way to take the Connection Sphere back by this triangle and feeling of how you need to shift your weight and how you need to turn to try to minimize how much these elbows get apart. Because if you look at impact, so go to impact for me, that's the impact position. So if I now take it to the backswing where I have a flying elbow, it's going to be really hard in 2/100ths of a second to get back to that point at impact.
Correct. I can see that for sure. So when we're just getting started, we want to really feel like we're just hitting little 9-3 pivoted, extended arms back and through. I'm basically pointing my chest back here at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and then I want to point it through to the target, just trying to measure off and feel like we know where the low point of the golf swing is.
When I'm using this product with my tour players, we talk about making kind of short arm swings with big body turns. Okay?
I like that. So I'm going to try to feel like my arms don't do much and it's just a big body turn.
And the benefit for so many amateurs too is that not only is it going to help you with your golf swing, but with your pitching motion and when you're hitting wedges. What we're trying to do when we're trying to hit the ball, you know, shorter distance, we're trying to minimize how much force we create with our hands. So learning how to be almost in a Steve Stricker type of wedge action where this doesn't change much and all the work is done with the distance the arms travel and how much the body's moving.
And you notice those 2 shots I hit, Sean, I hit them just a little bit thin. So I think people are going to experience some of that, right? Because we're putting a little pressure on the
But when I was in Palm Beach with Eric Van Rooyen, and he finds that the Connection Sphere is very challenging. And so what it does is it shows him how when he goes to the top of his backswing, when he was younger, he was told not to turn his hips. So it really forces him to have to rotate and extend that right leg more. And the beauty of it is when you're training, you technically want things to be more difficult than when you're not training. So once we take the connection sphere off, his level of ball striking really improves. So remember, we're not just designing, we're obviously designing these products so that you form a better golf swing and hit better golf shots. But when you're practicing, being challenged is really important for the brain to learn the proper movements.
And even as simple as just hitting a few little pitches like that, where I can get my finish position to be a little bit more rounded off. I'm staying in my right side bend, so my right shoulder is lower than my left, staying in my forward bend and tilt. Those little short shots seem to be kind of real easy at first, right? Before we get in. We know that everybody wants to grab a new product and just jump right in and make full swings and then wonder why the results aren't there.
Exactly.
So we're just trying to feel like we can feel width, and most importantly, we're trying to help people turn better and create more rotation. The best thing about this, honestly, is it totally moves with me. It's so pliable. It's also indestructible. Like, you can't really beat this thing up. So the fact that it squishes back and forth doesn't make me feel like I'm fighting it.
In a case, you know, Ben On was one of my first clients to even use it, and we still have the same one. If people had paid attention, Ben probably spends at least half an hour a day with it on. And when we started with it, you know, it would fall out when we would hit 9-irons, and now Ben's able to hit full drivers with it in the whole time.
It's incredible. Obviously, Ben being top 25 player in the world, I mean, that's incredible, but his swing looks a lot different over the last couple of years from the good work you've done, but big assist with the Pro Center product.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, the thing is,
massive.
Remember, a product is only really designed to help the human being get feedback, okay? So, and I don't mean the person themselves, but their brain needs to have the variability of what's right and what's wrong to understand what it needs to do. So these types of products give us, you know, quick feedback, and it's not necessarily to us, but to our brain and how we process that movement information and how we learn.
So let's go from there. We started with these little half shots here. Let's go into what we would do to create more of a full, like, we don't want people taking it way back with this product anyways, because we're trying to promote the body rotation. But if we add a little wrist set, and this, by the way, can be used in conjunction with the Pro Center wrist cradle, very common to be used that way.
So here's the deal, right? The distance the hands travel in the backswing is always important in ball striking. So imagine if you set up in there, and we go back to some kind of old instruction ideas. So set up for me and feel like you don't turn your lower body and you stay in your spine angle.
Don't turn my lower body.
You see how you got nowhere to go?
Nowhere.
Okay. So the importance of this is to understand that as we're shifting our weight and we're putting pressure into the right leg, that force we're putting into the ground is creating a vertical force in our body, which is helping us turn. Then also the other important part is to understand that when I see people really struggling, their head is going down in the backswing. So if I'm creating a force up and my hands and arms are traveling up, one, the force, and two, the momentum, I should feel that as I'm turning that I'm getting taller in my backswing. So picture like an image of how Rory starts his backswing, whereas the first move that he has is to get taller. So where do you have to go to feel like you can complete your backswing? So you feel taller, you feel the rotation, this leg feels very light, and now you have room to work down in transition and into impact. So take all the time you need to do that and just do it at a slow pace. And that's one of the big parts of it that's really helped with Ben, is that his tendency is to get too quick. And too quick isn't, we're not trying to slow him down, but we're trying to provide him with time. So we're not really changing his tempo, but we're ensuring that the backswing feels for him like it takes longer. Because remember, when you get to the top of your backswing, the downswing's 2/100ths of a second. So if you're not in a good place to begin with as you start down, you're not going to be able to apply anything to the golf club to really change it. So when I see someone come down and they say, well, I look really steep coming down, that's 1,000th of a second from when they finish their backswing. So all this frame on a video is showing is where they were at the top of their backswing.
Yeah, and that's my tendency, is to get a little quick from the top, tip the shaft just briefly. Fortunately, I'm athletic enough to shallow it late, but that's my constant, you know, goal, is to work on that first move down being a little softer, feeling wide, lengthening the right arm, which is honestly, as you've discussed many times, the right arm lengthening is probably the easiest way you could possibly shallow, and it adds width.
Absolutely.
So being in that type of situation is what I work on. I like that comment you just made about feeling like I'm trying to get taller.
Yep, as you turn.
Yeah, without my head going down, right?
Yep.
Feeling that.
And just allowing the time that it takes.
Yep. And then the other great thing about the product too is you really can't get the arm stuck behind you, because any retraction of the right arm takes the sphere off the lead arm.
Yeah. And for me, with all the 3D data I've looked at, retraction is a real killer.
Yeah.
Okay. Because what happens is when the hands and arms move in a different position, the body recognizes that and then moves to accommodate it, right? Because at the end of the day, the brain's just trying to avoid pain. So being retracted at the top of your backswing is really challenging to getting to impact.
Yep. Yep.
And
then like, what would you suggest for a practice session for somebody? You know, they're watching this advanced protocol right now. They're thinking, okay, this is great. This is good information. I'm making my notes. Where do we go from here? Give me a typical, we've arrived at the range and someone's gung-ho to make their game better. Walk me through, I'm the student, walk me through what I should do to have a proper, session on the range using the connection sphere.
Okay, so the first thing obviously is how you put it on.
Yep.
And so you've done a good job of explaining that. And then from there is go ahead and make a backswing.
Okay.
Okay, so as I said, the brain needs different variables. So set up for me again. So make a backswing where it falls out. Okay, so do you feel where your feet are? Do you feel where your body is? Do you feel where your head and your neck is? Do you feel all those things, right?
I feel a little almost reversed, like I got too much weight on my lead foot.
Exactly, and we need to get back to there, but we don't need to be in that position yet.
Right.
So set up again. Okay, so move it back to where it's the arms and the body taking it back to maybe halfway. Okay, so you can see, you can still remain in the height that you're in right now, right? Mm-hmm. Now, to get to 3/4 without using a lot of momentum, where do you feel like your body's going to need to move to help you get that left arm to 3/4 now?
Well, I need a little bit more chest rotation and elevation into my right side.
Yep. There you go. And so the thing about...
I almost unweighted my left foot. Is that okay for somebody?
But that's massive. I mean, when you're looking at swinging a golf club, the golf club to an extent is a pulling and a pushing motion. But from an evolution standpoint, it's a release sport. It's a throwing sport. So if we look at shot putters, if we look at pitchers in baseball, okay, I need to be able to unweight this foot in order to make enough time back here. The beauty of that is that leads into the kinematic sequence of, from the top, the lower body starting first, the torso coming second, and the arms coming third.
Correct.
So just in building a better backswing, you're able to get 3 or 4 other things for free that are all probably 10-page essays. There you go. And what point did people start keeping their left foot on the ground anyway?
Exactly.
Right?
And so here I am, I'm practicing. Mm-hmm. We definitely want to encourage people to start slow. We talked earlier in this video about just kind of half shots, 9 to 3 shots at half speed. But then I think as they move into full practice, really being deliberate is like, I'm so high on that with my students. Mm-hmm. If you can't do it at walkthrough speed, how could you ever do it with actual game time speed? So
yeah, and of course too, I think what this also does, and you can feel it as you've just been doing it.
Yep.
It's almost a movement session.
Oh, totally. So like it's a workout too. Like I feel like it's positions I get lazy on, and I don't feel like those elbows stay together like this.
Yep.
And allow this to feel wide, loading into that tall right side, like that right there.
So that's the thing, is that the feedback that you're getting from that is kind of leading you into the direction that you need to go into. Okay, and you can see it when you're doing it. You know, if you have a tendency of a mishit, that ball's always overdrawing.
Yeah.
And in the time that we've been sitting here on this, the curves almost come off of it.
Right.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the ability of, if I'm going to be there at impact, then I don't want to be in that much different of a position now.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct. Yep.
So for me, for you, getting taller, feeling unweighted, feeling like those arms are elevating, that's excellent right there. So
I got a little on top of that one.
Yeah, but the thing is,
what
I'm seeing is like way less reaction in the transition.
Yep.
So as I said, when people feel things coming down,
yep,
all that is doing is really giving them a roadmap to where they were before they started to apply force back there.
Sure. So yeah, that's my tendency a little bit from just growing up playing hockey. That first move down, instead of going this way, I get a little that way, a little on top of it. And I fight that a little bit, but I think most importantly, keeping this ball in between the arms, feeling connected, and trying to practice at a speed that allows me to learn. And then the next part of this would be me working really hard on my exit. How do I get my body to be a little bit more rounded? Because I can feel on that one there, little stally, the hands get involved, your athleticism has to kick in to, you know, still hit that on the green, which we just did there. But it didn't feel amazing, right?
But I think the follow through is just the sum of all parts. So the follow through is happening in an infinitely small time. So the follow through is more a consequence of what's happened before it.
Like, I love that feel right there.
Yeah, and then I think the important part is when we're pitching and hitting wedge shots, when we have less intention to create power.
Right.
When someone goes to hit a driver, they don't have to try to do anything to stand up. It's because the awareness of the speed they need and the weight of the club, it's a reaction.
Right.
Okay. So when I'm hitting shorter shots, you know, a lot of amateurs have a hard time kind of getting through the ball. I think with what happens with the connection sphere on is you'll feel as you get taller on the way back, you're going to have to do the same thing on the way through. And the problem is in golf, the word early extension is such a bad word.
Right.
But it's one, the reason it happens, and two, if you look at the Hall of Fame, it is full of people whose butt was not on the wall. So extension is a very powerful movement. The extension phase is also a deceleration phase, which allows us to get the face more square. So I would want to see, like in a lesson with you right now, I'd want to see from here at 3/4 that I'm taller as I've turned, and then in the follow through, I'm taller as I've turned.
Yep, I like that. And then just really trying to maintain my tempo. Worry less about the result of the ball too when you're trying to make these changes.
What's going to happen, technically speaking, if you're able to keep the forearms in this position, that's taking care of so much of the geometry already anyways.
Right.
So this is really integrating the feeling of the body and the arms together.
It was just me trying to get tall. I hit it a little thin, obviously, because I'm trying to come up. I probably got into extension phase a little early there. But yeah, these are just some of the things that I think will assist people when they're working through it, right?
What I've seen with the tour players is when they work with it, you know, they still hit the ball fairly well.
Right.
When it comes off to where they have a little bit more range of motion through the shoulder and the forearms to where the ball would still look in, then they really start to flush it.
Yeah, they're flushing.
And that's kind of what you want. Like, you know,
should be a little bit of work when you got it on.
Yeah, when you look at special operations, they train in the worst case scenario over 60% of the time. So when we go to practice, we're trying to do things that are challenging us to learn and grow, not trying to do something we're already good at.
Right. And one other thing I just think is just a side note, just because I've seen people do this that are doing it incorrectly, and then they think, oh, this, you know, when the ball or when the sphere comes off, they hit a shot and the sphere like goes on the grass over here. And I'll get, you know, comments from people saying, well, God, you know, it won't stay on. It's not the case. Like this is on. It's not going anywhere. The only way that this will come off is through a rotational friction. So if somebody's pronating their trail arm too hard and really slinging it over, clearly their body's not doing a lot of the work to rotate, and then you can spit it off the
yeah. And I think for some of our Pro Center users who come over the top and slice it, that might be actually a feeling that they would be trying to have, is that as they're coming through the ball, without it coming off, they're feeling like they would be applying the idea of, once I'm in here, what's going to happen on the other side is going to mirror it exactly.
Correct.
All right. So the difference to me is more of when the player's flipping it,
right,
versus being able to keep it in the whole time. So even if you just went in your backyard and you put it in, and you went from 9 o'clock here, and then went to 3 o'clock on the other side, and felt like those positions mirror each other, just doing that for 15 minutes in the morning or 15 minutes at night. I think the problem that people have is that they think they need to be hitting balls to improve.
Right.
This is as much improving movement as the dynamics and everything else. So just being able to sit there and, you know, how much looser do you feel after 15 minutes using it?
You can't even make a full backswing with this on without really rotating the thorax, right? Like your upper body really has to rotate. Otherwise, you're going to feel it separate from the lead forearm.
And I think the other thing and how it helps as well is that the trick about golf is because we play bent over and we're playing sideways is, yes, it ends up looking like a circle, but it ends up looking like a circle. The issue that people have with their backswing is that, you know, the arms in the backswing, they really elevate and de-elevate. Okay, so yeah, of course there's some rotation, but the arms are really moving up and down if you know what you're measuring. So when people get going back, you know, that's as far as I can get going back with my turn and by being slightly taller. Now when I start to elevate my shoulders, that's what allows me to keep it in there. There is a up and down motion, but it's just perceptively challenging for people because it looks so around. The around part comes from a little bit of the rotation of the forearms, but more than anything, the around part is coming from how the body's turning and pivoting. So this is, you know, this is something that, because I got players that I want their backswing to get flatter because they play their best when they hit a draw. So trying to get the backswing lower and more around them helps us just progressively hit a draw without having to time it up.
Absolutely.
But that's still the idea, is that if I go here and I lift my arms up in front of me, and now from here I turn, you can see that even this feels up. Because I've matched it with the body, it's still around.
100%.
And so the arms are going up and down, and we can see it, you know, in the full swing of players on tours. When they get to the top, if you drew a line on their hands, you can see that the hands are going down before they go out. And so that's a real big piece of the puzzle.
Not only going down, but right arm is lengthening.
Absolutely.
Creating width.
Yeah, and the beauty about this is that, you know, if I have it in here, then I'm into this position with right wrist extension. That right wrist extension is going to create right elbow bend. And so once I get into there, from there, in this position, if I'm able to maintain the pressure on it, it's really hard for me to get it out of position. So I like to feel like I'm already at impact before I even start down, because within 2/100ths of a second, I'm not going to be able to take a bad backswing and turn it into a good impact position.
Which is why we made this so pliable.
Absolutely.
So you can put those forces and torques upon the grip.
Absolutely.
To create the best impact position. So use this in a variety of ways. We've walked through a bunch of advanced protocols for this, and just some great conversation about the golf swing in general.
And it's not just in the golf swing too, because, you know, if I put it in here, I have friends who are putting coaches on tour who use this with players who set up like this. So they're trying to have really the least amount of movement with the wrist and the forearms and the elbows. So even just sitting on a putting green, and I see this for amateur golfers big time, is it's just giving me the feedback. You can tell me, you know, take it back with your shoulders and your torso, but this is not telling me. This is helping me feel what that feels like.
Right.
If I did this without this, it would still feel slightly different. And then even from a chipping standpoint, I'm not trying, because the swing is short, I'm not really trying to have a lot of change from this setup position to here. So starting with it on a putting green, going to chipping, into pitching, but I'd really advise you, if you have time, is try to take 20 minutes a day to make sure that even without a ball, you could have a window in your backyard. Just start really building the backswing, trying to see how long can I keep the pressure of both forearms on the ball, and what do I need to do with my body to do that? Because when I coach amateurs a lot, they can't believe how out of control they feel with how much I'm trying to make them move.
Right.
But as human beings, we walk through life. So shifting our weight is a natural birthright that we have.
Right.
You know, so that is, you know, as the idea is that if my hands and arms do something, my body's going to follow it. And that's why with our products, from the cradle to the connection sphere, by focusing on really what is the cause behind so many things, consequentially other things improve, and it's just happening in second nature.
That's great. Good stuff, buddy.